In the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, there is a country that looks like it was stitched together from different worlds. An island covered in black ash, where a volcanic crater opens up like a giant crack in the ground. A colorful village clinging to a sheer mountainside, with houses hanging over deep cliffs. A white desert ruled by endless sand dunes, as if the wind dragged them straight from the Sahara and left them behind. Some places look almost too beautiful to be real. Others make you wonder, how can anyone live here? And even stranger, this tiny island nation of just over 500,000 people has just become a sensation at the 2026 World Cup. Volcanoes, deserts, villages hanging from cliffs, green valleys rising out of the open sea. All of them exist in Cape Verde, one of the strangest and most remote places in Africa. Ribeira da Torre, Santo Antão. Ribeira da Torre is located on the island of Santo Antão, off the coast of West Africa. But this place is far from the usual idea of a tropical paradise. There are no calm beaches here, nor are there resorts stretching along the water's edge. Instead, there is a valley carved deep into the volcanic rock, where water from the highlands weaves through the crevices and cascades down into the heart of the mountain. As you head deeper into this area, you will see a narrow road winding along the terrain. On one side, a white stream crashes against the black rock, while on the other, terraced fields and small houses cling to the steep slope. In some sections, the entire valley suddenly opens up before your eyes. Rough mountain ranges rise up like giant walls. Sharp stone pillars begin to appear. That is exactly what makes Ribeira da Torre so unusual. In the middle of the Atlantic, Santo Antão hides a green, humid, and vibrant valley that feels like a completely different world. Viana Desert, Boa Vista. Located in the northwest of Boa Vista Island, the Viana Desert is only about 6 kilometers from the capital of Sal Rei. This area is not very large, as the dune field only stretches for about 5 kilometers and is about 1 kilometer wide. What makes this place special is that the white sand does not originate from Cape Verde. It comes from the Sahara, carried across the Atlantic by the trade winds and accumulated on the island over centuries. The sand dunes curve into soft layers, stretching under a cloudy sky. Interspersed among that white color are black volcanic rocks, a few low shrubs, and small ripples carved into the surface by the wind. As your car starts driving deep into the sinking sand, the scenery in front of you shifts to a much emptier feeling. Ahead is a dusty horizon. Next to it, the Atlantic Ocean expands with endless layers of blue waves crashing against the shoreline. It is this contrast that makes the Viana Desert so bizarre. It does not look like a typical beach destination, but rather like a piece of the Sahara, dragged off the continent by the wind and left right at the edge of the ocean. Cidade Velha, Santiago Island. Formerly known as Ribeira Grande de Santiago, Cidade Velha is today considered one of the first European colonial settlements in the tropical Atlantic. From above, the town appears on a volcanic promontory, where ocean waves constantly crash against the cliffs right next to the rooftops. Inside are narrow streets, houses lined up one after another, fishing boats anchored in the bay, and rows of palm trees growing in the valley. The deeper you go, the more this place reveals layers of history far beyond a normal coastal village. Ancient stone walls, white churches, a hillside fortress, and old ruins are scattered across the rugged reddish-brown landscape. But the past here does not only live in ruined remnants. In the small square by the village, locals still gather under the shade of trees, singing, clapping to the beat, and playing musical instruments together. Amidst the ocean, dark bedrock, and ancient structures, the history of Cape Verde does not stand still like an open-air museum. it continues to live on in the music, in the daily rhythm of life, and in the very people of Santiago Island. Fontainhas, Santo Antão. On the northern mountainside of Santo Antão Island, near the town of Ponta do Sol, Fontainhas is one of the most impressively located villages in Cape Verde. From a distance, this place appears as a small cluster of houses wedged between high mountains and the deep sea. The colorful houses are packed tightly on the slope, with narrow roads running along the cliffs below. The closer you get, the more you see that Fontainhas is unlike an ordinary coastal village. The houses do not spread out on flat ground, but cling tier by tier to the cliff face amid dry, rocky slopes, deep ravines, and tiny agricultural plots. There are stretches of road just wide enough for a single car to pass. On one side is a sheer cliff, while the other side is a sheer drop opening straight down into the valley and the Atlantic Ocean. In a terrain seemingly unfit for human habitation, Fontainhas still boasts vibrant paint colors, small balconies, cobblestone pathways, and the slow-paced life of the mountain people. Here, the most distinct feeling is not the altitude or the danger, but the fact that humans have found a way to live stably in a place that seems impossible to settle. Pedra de Lume, Sal Island. Pedra de Lume does not sit next to a blue beach like many of Cape Verde's other tourist spots. It lies inside the crater of an extinct volcano. From the outside, this area just looks like an arid wasteland with brown rocks, low mountainsides, and a few abandoned old structures. But as you walk through the tunnel leading into the heart of the crater, the scenery begins to change completely. Inside, salt pans are scattered across the flat ground, divided into grids of white, pale pink, and reddish brown. The still water reflects the sky, while the layers of crystallized salt coat the edges of the pools like a layer of ice in the middle of the tropics. In the past, Salt was mined here and transported to the port via a cable car system. The old wooden poles, cables, and ruined warehouses still remain on the mountainside. Pedra de Lume makes Sal Island bizarre in its own unique way. In the middle of an island famous for its beaches and wind, there is a dry volcanic crater where people once stepped down into the earth just to harvest salt from a nearly alien landscape. Royal Fortress of São Filipe, Santiago Island. Perched on a plateau overlooking Cidade Velha, the Royal Fortress of São Filipe in the south of Santiago Island creates the feeling that the entire old town and coastline fit perfectly right below. The fortress is built of stone, with thick walls running along the edge of the mountain slope. Inside are empty courtyards, narrow walkways, old cannons, and vantage points that open straight out to the Atlantic Ocean. Standing on the ramparts, you will see Cidade Velha shrink below. The rooftops, palm valleys, bays, and volcanic bedrock are intertwined in a single frame. This place was once erected to protect one of the first important European colonial settlements in the tropical Atlantic. Therefore, the fortress is not just a scenic viewpoint, but also a remnant of an era full of trade, conflict, and control. Today, the Royal Fortress of São Filipe stands still in the sun and wind of Santiago. There are no longer the sounds of soldiers or merchant ships in the port below, only the sea breeze blowing through the stone walls, leaving a profound sense of emptiness that contrasts sharply with the role this place once played. Santa Maria, Sal Island. Santa Maria is located at the southern tip of Sal Island, where Cape Verde shows a completely different face. Not steep volcanoes or deep valleys, but a stretch of white sand right against the blue water. From above, the town spreads out along the coastline. On one side are low rooftops, hotels, restaurants, and small streets. On the other side is a wide beach, where Atlantic waves continuously roll into the shore. The most recognizable feature in Santa Maria is the pier reaching out into the sea. During the day, fishing boats dock and locals haul in nets, sort fish, and chat right on the wooden planks. Further out on the sand, the scene shifts to a different rhythm. Tourists swim in the ocean, windsurfers move with the breeze, and colorful kites stand out against the pale blue sky. Santa Maria is not strange for being desolate. It is strange because contrasting things all coexist on a very narrow strip of coast. A fishing village, resorts, water sports, local life, and the free-spirited vibe of a town standing right in front of the ocean. Pico do Fogo, Fogo Island. Pico de Fogo is something you almost cannot miss on Fogo Island. This volcano stands 2,829 meters tall, making it the highest point in Cape Verde. From afar, it appears as a giant black cone rising up from the island's foundation. There is no dense forest covering it, nor are there soft mountain slopes. There is only volcanic rock, black ash, and layers of old lava stretching around the base of the mountain. As you enter the Chandas Calderas area, the scenery becomes even more unusual. This is a wide caldera, where houses, vineyards, and small dirt roads sit right beneath the slopes of the volcano. Traces of past eruptions are still very clear. In some sections, old lava flows have swept across the ground, burying homes and roads, turning the whole area into a frozen sea of black rock. but amidst that harsh terrain, people still return to live. They grow grapes, build houses, open small shops, and continue living in the shadow of a mountain that could wake up at any moment. What is remarkable about Fogo is not the danger, but the way life goes on right inside the direct impact zone of a volcano. Ponta do Sol, Santo Antão. At the northern tip of Santo Antão, Ponta do Sol is a small town, but its location makes every frame feel precarious. Looking down from the mountain road, you will see the rooftops clustered by a small bay. In front is the expansive Atlantic Ocean, while behind are dark cliffs rising right up against the town. Inside Ponta do Sol, the pace of life happens very close to the water. Fishing boats lie by the dock, locals walk the narrow streets, and ocean waves constantly pound against the sea wall and the black bedrock. Space is not wide here. The town is confined by the sea on one side and mountains on the other. This is exactly what makes Ponta do Sol feel like the very last stop before Santo Antão gives way entirely to cliffs and the ocean. When the sky changes color, the whole place grows quieter. The boats rest close to the water's edge. The houses light up at the foot of the mountain, and offshore there is only the lingering sound of waves in the dark. Kite Beach, Sal Island. Just looking from afar, you can see that Kite Beach on the east side of Sal Island does not operate at the rhythm of a normal resort beach. The most prominent thing here is not the rows of lounge chairs or beachfront resorts, but the wind. The wind blows almost constantly across the water, pulling along colorful kites that fill the sky. Stepping onto the sand, the scene becomes highly dynamic. Small waves constantly wash ashore, surfboards slice across the water, and kite surfers dart past at high speeds before suddenly launching out of the sea. From above, Kite Beach looks like a giant playground in the middle of the ocean. The paths of the surfers weave together, creating white streaks across the grey-blue water. But this place is not just for tourists who love sports. It shows another side of Sal: dry, empty, windy, and with almost nothing shielding humans from the Atlantic Ocean. A beach that does not try to be peaceful, does not stand still for people to admire. It is always moving, always noisy, and seemingly created just so the wind can turn the ocean surface into an open stage. Po Valley, Santo Antão. Located in northeastern Santo Antão, the Po Valley is where Cape Verde's landscape suddenly shifts from arid to lush and green. The moment the road begins to descend into the valley, the space before your eyes changes very quickly. The dark mountainsides give way to terraced fields, banana plantations, sugarcane, fruit trees, and small clusters of houses scattered amid the greenery. This is not a wide and flat kind of valley. The Po Valley is squeezed between high mountain ranges, so everything must cling to the terrain. The road winds around steep slopes. Local houses sit on narrow ridges of land. Tiny agricultural plots are stacked in tiers from the valley floor, up close to the mountain ridges. The deeper you go, the more you see how crucial water is to this place. Small streams weave through the rocks, channeling water into the fields and keeping the entire valley vibrant in the midst of a sun-drenched and windy archipelago. Unlike the rough and dry image many people usually associate with Cape Verde, the Po Valley feels like a hidden patch of green tucked away inside Santo Antão. Old volcanoes, farmland, and agricultural life are all packed together in an incredibly narrow space. Monte Brianda, Santiago Island. Monte Brianda is situated on Santiago Island, in a landscape completely different from the usual beaches seen in Cape Verde. From a distance, this area emerges with barren mountain slopes, patches of reddish-brown earth, and small roads cutting across the highlands. The space here is drier, more rugged, and feels less manicured for tourism. As you get closer, you will notice the terrain beginning to divide into multiple layers. There are low hillsides covered in shrubs, narrow valleys nestled among rocky slopes, and small clusters of houses popping up scattered across the rugged ground. Monte Brianda does not impress with grand structures or dazzling beaches. Its appeal lies in the raw, authentic feel of Santiago, an island with mountains, dirt roads, small villages, vast empty spaces, and the color of dry earth scorching under the sun. If viewed from a drone, this place looks like a living topographic map. The mountain ridges, dry ravines and trails show up distinctly, proving that Cape Verde is not just blue oceans, but also a volcanic land sculpted by wind and time into very strange shapes. In Monte Brianda, the weirdness lies in the overall pristine feel of the Santiago Highlands. This is a place where the scenery looks both intimately connected to local life and as foreign as a part of the island that has never been softened by tourism. Santa Luzia Island, Barlavento. Nestled between San Vicente and São Nicolau, Santa Luzia is one of the most unique islands in Cape Verde, as it has almost no permanent residents. Looking from the ocean, Santa Luzia appears empty and silent. There are no coastal towns, no hotels, no rows of colorful houses sitting right by the water. There are only low mountains, sandy beaches, dry rocks, and virtually untouched coastlines. It is the very absence of humans that makes this island different. The beaches stretch out with a wild feel, while the surrounding waters belong to a vital marine reserve of Cape Verde. Santa Luzia is where seabirds and native species find breeding grounds. The strips of sand, cliffs and waters around the island remain unexploited compared to other crowded tourist destinations. If Sal gives off a bustling vibe because of the wind and water sports, Santa Luzia stands on the exact opposite end, an almost silent island, left behind in the middle of the Atlantic, where nature still maintains much more control than humans. What makes Santa Luzia memorable is not that there is too much to look at. It is the rare feeling of seeing an island that has largely escaped being turned into a settlement, a resort, or a stage for tourism. Brava Island. Brava is the smallest inhabited island in Cape Verde. Compared to Sal or Santiago, this place is far less noisy and also much harder to reach. From afar, Brava emerges with green mountain slopes, steep cliffs, and small villages nestled amid low clouds. The coastline does not open up into long, sandy beaches, but is often broken by rocks, mountain slopes, and narrow little bays. When you head inland, the scenery becomes softer. The roads wind through the highlands, threading past houses, orchards, wildflowers, and small green-covered valleys. The space here feels slow, intimate, and isolated from the rest of the archipelago. Brava is often called the Island of Flowers, but its beauty does not just lie in the blooms. It lies in the way the villages rest quietly among the mountains, the way the fog rolls over the rooftops, and the way the sea always appears faintly below the steep slopes. Brava pulls you in with its sense of isolation, a tiny island that is greener, quieter, and seems to preserve an old pace of life that the more famous tourist islands lost a long time ago. Mayo Island. In the eastern part of the Cape Verde archipelago, Mayo is close to Santiago but carries a completely different rhythm of life. Instead of high mountains and deep valleys, Mayo spreads out with low, flat terrain and plenty of wide, open spaces. Long beaches are almost empty of people, dusty roads run through small villages, while shrubs and acacia forests appear scattered across the island's interior. Near Porto Inglés, you will see salt pans opening up under the sun. The ground is white, flat, and sparkling, creating the illusion of a small patch of desert sitting right next to the ocean. In the past, salt was a vital part of Mayo, and that trace is still clearly visible in the landscape today. Going deeper into the island, you will see that Mayo does not try to fight for attention with overwhelmingly breathtaking viewpoints. It is quieter, less populated. The small villages with low houses, painted walls, fish docks, and a slow pace of daily life make this place feel like a Cape Verde that has not yet been accelerated by tourism. Amidst an archipelago increasingly known for resorts, water sports, and guided tours, Mayo remains like a vast, quiet pause where sand, salt, wind, and local life still dominate the frame. More than just beautiful beaches in the middle of the Atlantic, Cape Verde is a place where volcanoes, deserts, green valleys, fishing villages, and nearly forgotten islands all coexist in one very small archipelago. Out of all the places we have just visited, which one surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below. Do not forget to hit like and subscribe so you will not miss our next mysterious journeys. See you next time.